because surely we have nothing to do. And usually they say, from dust we come, and to also dust we go back. And that is how we shall be able to also go back to God there, and we shall continue for their souls to rest in eternal peace, because that is surely the only thing we can do now, because they have gone, and that is their time, maybe the time God stipulated there. Because usually we say people meet their deaths, and really, if you are born, for the believers, we usually say they actually signed a memorandum of understanding with God upon how they will die, and really when they will die, and that is how they will be able to thoroughly go back to God. And today, the burial arrangements, we shall be able to thoroughly come and let you know how maybe the burial arrangements goes, as far as the two will be able to be laid to rest. But I do understand the funeral prayers will be able to take place. That is in one church, that is at Ochiba, and thereafter their bodies will be taken to their separate places for their burial. And that is something that we cannot literally also leave talking about, because that is quite shocking. And that is how far as the death, the news about the death of these two is actually happening in. And similar, and now moving on the papers here, we are seeing suspected food poisoning at burial leaves 3 dead and 46 hospitalized. And that is now news that we are seeing also here. At least 3 people have been confirmed dead, and 46 others hospitalized after allegedly eating, that is, poisoned food during a burial ceremony. And the tragedy incident occurred that in Bakamasi village in Buyengo Town Council in Jinda district during the burial of Sheikh Ahmad Magumba, the area county card. The 49 suspected food poison survivors admitted at Buenje General Hospital after developing diarrhea, vomiting, and stomach ache. And the Buenje General Hospital medical superintendent, Dr. Agri Bameka, said the deceased include 2 children and an adult. And that is how they got information. The deceased include, that is, Suleiman Buyangwe, who is 4 years old, Samim Nangobi 6 years, and Faizo Magumba, who is 20 years old. Dr. Bameka said the patient's conditions are improving, and so far 9 have been discharged. And the information we really got is that the ambulances were seen ferrying these people who had actually gone to attend at the funeral of that late sheikh. They are being ferried one after the other. And that is something I must say that also we did see on the papers. And 1 dead and 3 others missing after a boat capsized on Lake Victoria. That is also another we are seeing on the papers here. A search and rescue team was on Friday evening searching for 3 more bodies of passengers who went missing following a Thursday evening boat accident that is on Lake Victoria. And the ill-fated boat, according to police, was transporting people from Chirongo landing site in Busamuzi sub-county in Buvunga district, heading to Chiyindi landing site in Buikwe district on the mainland. And the same boat, there were 4 cows and sacks of silverfish, and at least 5 passengers were on board. And the incident occurred at about 9 p.m. according to a survivor and a female passenger. But this really draws me to the question, and really, how do you ensure that you move safely on these water bodies? Because really, if you are traveling on water, me, I'm somebody who fears water naturally. I do not really also believe that I can be able to move on these water bodies without any fear. In most cases, I have this fear for these water bodies. But you see people moving on these water bodies without the necessary protective gear, people not putting on the jackets, which could actually save their lives. And people do not actually have, maybe cannot afford these jackets. And that is why they move on these water bodies. Move where these water bodies are. For where I come from, maybe if you also really reflect and if you move there and see how people are traveling, sometimes you get to fear, because these people are crossing over the other side of to the Lango, actually sub-region, without this protective gear. And this is where they do not actually also abide by putting on this protective gear. They move a lot, the boats are overloaded. Really, sometimes the accidents, really, we also have to blame ourselves for, because really, if these people who are supposed to travel with you are overloading, you have the right to say no. But in most cases, people keep quiet. I don't know why, but really, when such things happen, that is when we start regretting and also lamenting here and there. Maybe we could have done better, and that is why we are still also following up on. But we pray maybe these people's bodies can be retrieved. That is in case they have already perished, because we do not expect to live more than 11 hours on the water, because water is actually where you can't be able to die very fast. Because if you drown, definitely you will be able to die. So I think, according to Miss Helen Butoto, the Sezibwa Regional Police spokesperson, preliminary investigation shows that the boat skipper, only identified as Mr. Kabenge, hired the boat from one, that is Derek Omoro, to ferry passengers. And that is how these people actually maybe met their losses or deaths. And that is something we are still talking about. And really, Mr. Bitoto also added on that the boat was loaded beyond its capacity, and despite warnings against overloading, the boat skipper reportedly ignored this, asserting his expertise in water transport. Really, you are thinking of being a water expertise, and then definitely you are also excluding certain people. You are going putting people's lives at risk, and that is how they will be able to really lose their lives in your hands as the boat skipper. So I think people really need to also abide by certain of these laws. If really you also as a traveler or passenger who is supposed to really travel by these water bodies, you have the right to say no. You have all what it takes to really also abide by and say, I am not going to travel on this boat because it is putting my life at danger. So I think if you also really refuse and say no, maybe spend the night on the other side of the water bodies, and then definitely that would also really greatly improve, maybe also protect your life from losing your life. So I think that is how people also need to abide by. People need to ensure that they say no, because you as the passengers, if at all of you say no, then the person who is supposed to really be the driver, the skipper on this boat, cannot travel without people, unless if he or she is somebody maybe who feels very big-headed. But you also have the mandate to really also report to that is the relevant stakeholders who are in place to really also ensure that your lives are not put at danger. So I think that is something that we cannot also really leave talking about. And however, shortly after setting off from that is Chirongo landing site, distress calls came from occupants seeking help, and that is how they were able to also really meet their deaths there. And now moving away from that, also on the papers we are seeing Biabashaija warns prison officials against torture of inmates, and that is also something that we cannot also really leave talking about, because really some of these prisoners also have been going through a lot, and that is how they were also planning and also to escape from these prisons. And that is something that we also cannot exclude talking about. And we also have to continue calling at the same message. We also have to continue echoing and saying there's no need to really also continue torturing these inmates, because really at one time somebody said we are all candidates, that is to the prisons, and that is just like also disability. Anytime any of us can go there, that is how we also need to really also protect these people who are inmates, that is from torture. And the Commissioner General of the Uganda Prison Services, Johnson Biabashaija, has cautioned his officers, including that is prison wardens, to desist from torturing prison inmates, saying it violates their human rights. So I think that is also something that really is against their human rights, and that is also violating their rights, because usually these prison officers who are tortured really go through a lot. And to me, one of the forms of torture these people are going through is really bringing them to dig in these farms. Really, these people have to do a lot of work, to me, which is also against their rights. Really, if you see what happens in the prisons, most of this human labor that requires, most of these works that require human labor, in most cases, people very, very much quickly rush to prisons, and then they think really the people who are there, the inmates, are the right people to do these heavy and these jobs that really are quite difficult. And that is how these people have also been used in terms of paying them small monies. And I must say that is something that we cannot really also exclude talking about. And during his tour of regional prisons in eastern Uganda last week, the prisons commander emphasized the importance of upholding ethical standards in correctional systems. Biabashaija, who confirmed that there have been reports of torture in some prison facilities across the country, and warned officers and prison wardens who are reported for violating prisoners' human rights. But now the question I'm asking myself, if at all these people are actually caught in the same act, why can't they also be imprisoned, and then let them also, these officers who are there, also become a part of the inmates, and then maybe that would also at one point also scare there will be perpetrators or maybe violators of these people's human rights from continuing and indulging in the same practice. And I believe that at the end of the day would greatly also improve on protecting these people's and upholding these people's human rights, and to also really protect these people from these right violations. And that is how really, I must say, is happening. And we also really pray and also echo our voices and say there is no need for really people's rights to be violated, because at the end of the day that puts them at risk and also really affects them. And that is why we are seeing many prison breakaways, and that is how we have also seen people, inmates, trying to escape. In most cases, we have seen this happening. At one time, it happened even at a rural government prison. We have seen similar cases happening in Moroto and other places, really. And recent, where we saw a prison, these prison inmates wanting to escape from one of the courts, and that is something I must say is happening, maybe because their rights are being violated at the prisons, because really they say maybe the prison is a place of, is a university of understanding, as people have usually said, and really maybe it's supposed to be a place for people to reform. But how are you ensuring and in these people rehabilitate? How are you doing your work in rehabilitating these people? Because I do understand that it is a place for these people to really also reform. But then if you are putting them to go through certain of these experiences, then definitely that would not really be quite good. And with that, really, we are running for the first commercial break of the show. And in case you're just joining us right now, you're most welcome aboard. Feel free to really drop your comments on the various platforms where you're watching us from, and also let us know where exactly you are catching us from and how is it happening from wherever you are, and what do you think about the topics that really we are discussing. And we are just talking about the torture of inmates. What can be done to avert certain of these activities? That is the question as to we are running for the break. And maybe if you feel there's something you can be of help to, then definitely you can also drop your comments on the various feedback generating platforms. For those of you watching us on Facebook, you can drop your comment there and we shall be able to read it widely. And for those of you watching us on Zuku, you can also use the social media platforms. For instance, YouTube, you can use Facebook and also drop your comment there, and we shall be able to leave it live. We shall be able to also read it lively and clearly, and also share with the rest of the viewers. But for now, allow me running for a short commercial break, and when I return back, we shall be able to pick up with more topics and expound on them here and there with you.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
AFCON, all 52 games live only on StarTimes. StarTimes brings you Africa's biggest football tournament, AFCON 2023 live in English and Luganda commentary. Starting January 13, don't miss Mo Salah, Sadio Mane or Nana. Lead the hunt for gold as they take center stage. Renew your StarTimes subscription today and enjoy all 52 matches in HD live on Sports Premium and Sanyuka Prime. StarTimes, the official broadcaster of AFCON 2023. This message is powered by Techno, the official sponsor of AFCON 2023.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Welcome back from that short commercial break, and this is still the morning updates on the Kokoliriko live show, West Nile TV channel 0073 on Zuku, and also streaming us online, that is on YouTube and Facebook. And I must say you are most welcome back from the short commercial break. In case you're just joining us right now, similarly, I want to welcome you on board, and this is the show definitely that would also have an impact on you. And remember, it being a Monday, so many things are happening here and there. We're also witnessing the reporting that is of the senior one candidates to also their various schools, and this is one thing I also can't exclude talking about. But really, how are we guiding them? That is the question that we are really also going to be discussing with you here and there. And before we did go for the break, we are talking about the torture and really of the inmates by, that is, the prison officials. And really that is something that we are talking about. Before we did go for the break, and I did pose a question: how best can these people's rights that are being protected from violations be protected? Because I do understand sometimes, yes, they may be criminals or maybe bad people who are in prison, but really, how can we protect them, that is, from the tortures that we're talking about? That is the question that I did ask earlier on before we did go for the break. And I'm also similarly extending the same question again, of maybe what should be done to these officers who are caught up red-handed in these acts of torturing these prison officers. And really, and then how have you also been seeing these people's rights being violated? That is the question that I'm posing to you right now. And also, really, if you have something that you can put forward on this same topic, and really that would also really be quite important there. And now Bebasaija has recognized their efforts in corrections and productions, emphasizing their critical role in prison's positive trajectory. And the Commissioner General directed his officers to maintain the highest level of professionalism among staff while on duty as a focal point person. So I think that is something that we are still talking about, because really, if these officers do not act professionally, definitely they are also going to be doing certain things that may be out of the law, because really we do not expect you to do something contrary to the law, because you, as a prison warder, you have a lot to do when it comes to also ensuring and protecting these people's rights. Then definitely that would also really, at the end of the day, protect these people's lives from being violated. And then maybe people whom we would want to transform or reform would actually understand why they were in prison. And that is one thing, that when they come out, they will be able to really also come out as good people, because sometimes also really we have seen this for reforming, and we have seen, I've in several cases interacted with these people who are from prison, and they have also often told us how difficult and how bad life is in the prisons. And that is how they would also not encourage somebody to go to prison. And that is one thing that I must tell you, maybe it is resulting from the torture, because really so many things happen there. And then definitely that would also really greatly also affect these people's lives. And Bebasaija to include visits to prison agricultural farms, that is Nodina, where he expects gratitude for a bountiful sunflower harvest for about 210 acres, a farm that had transitioned from maize growing. And I must say, we have seen these inmates are very much involved in, that is, farming. If you look at these prisons, most of them have at the farms, where we are seeing these people actually greatly engaged in, that is, production. And we have seen them often doing quite well. But is it in relation to their will? That is something I do not know. Or maybe they're just forced to go and dig, because if at all they are being forced, then that is against their rights. But if at all, these prison inmates may be also very much interested in farming, or maybe if this farming is done by, it could be also the officials who are engaged in this farming, then definitely that is very good. But if it is under force, I must say that is against their will. Now, while at Odina, the chief jailer disclosed that the prison service is actively engaged in commercial maize production in various locations. He cited Achua Ranch, Aloim Ongoim, Pingere Away, and the Jumani prisons from operating under government food intervention program by the Ministry of Agriculture. And Nabi Basaija urged prisons on the need for the establishment of small-scale irrigation schemes to mitigate drought and enhance overall production in agriculture infrastructure, expressing satisfaction with the big harvest in the past seasons, aligning the prison's contribution to Uganda's food production strategy. So I think that is something we are also talking about. Really, they have been very much engaged in so many things, and then definitely that is something we cannot also really exclude talking about. And that is one thing now we cannot also leave talking about. And now today is it being Monday, moving away from the Bebasaija prison tour, now moving on, that is with other stories. I must say, today, it being that is the 19th of February, that this is actually when we are seeing so many of the schools reporting back. And this is for the S1 candidates who are going to join their various schools. And remember, in the recently released, that is primary living examination results, we are now seeing where those who passed shall be able to really join their various schools this week. And this is actually maybe depending on maybe the schools that they gave their first choices to, or maybe the schools that their parents could have decided for different reasons, because you may, as a child, decide you want to go to a certain school, but your parents, who is actually the one that pays these fees, could not be having the mandate and says, I'm deciding to take you to this school, and the reason is A, B, C, D. This is where also the parents now need to sit with their children and not also make the things seem like decree. You have to make your children understand that maybe you are taking them to certain schools for different reasons, and this is where they need to also really understand that they have been taken to these schools for these reasons. If it is fees, make it clear that I'm taking you to this school because I cannot afford the school that you want to go to, because really after finishing P7, maybe during that process, during the signing of these forms, I don't know how they call them, people really give their choices to the various schools that they want to go to. And this is where they give about 4 choices. The first choice, the second choice, the third and the fourth. And I believe the first choice is usually where these candidates want to go to. But as a parent, really, if you may not be able to really afford where this child wants to go to, be open, sit with your children, make them understand that it is happening because of this reason or that. And that is how maybe they will be able to really understand and go to these schools and perform. Because if you look at what has been happening over the years, where we are seeing dropping out, some of the reasons have actually been that the parents have never had time to really sit with their children in terms of taking them to the schools that they want to go to. And that is how the children have not been really feeling fine in the environment they have been taken to, because really the child is going to face a new environment. Really, if you are going today, and remember one of the experiences I actually had, that is on my first day joining secondary school, is actually I'd never been to a boarding school, and my first day I felt like going back home, and due to a new environment, I was able to join a school where I was not used to, and really it was not quite good. And with the kind of information and stereotype that we kind of also received way back, that this, you're going to be bullied, you're going to do this here and there, this and that is going to happen to you. Really, I should say it was really also echoing and maybe also causing a lot of pressure for me. And when I joined, and that is how at the end of the day I actually got to settle. And this is one thing that you need to also tell your parents and your children. Really, you are going to school, you are totally going to have a new environment. Primary level is totally different from secondary. In secondary, you have to read, you have to do this and that, because in primary you could have passed just by cramming. But now secondary is all about reading, and you have to understand now that the subjects are going to expand. From 4 you're going to be studying maybe 10, and this is how something that you need to really, maybe more than 10 even. That is how you as a parent needs to sit down with your children, sit them down, tell them, have meeting before they actually go back to school, because this is something that I believe if you really at all sit down with your children, at the end of the day they will understand that they're in school for different reasons, and of which the reason is actually to pass and excel in academics. And that is one reason I must say, as parents, this day you need to sit down with your children, share with them, explain to them that they're in school not really because they are there to play, but they are there to pass. And this is actually something I must say, as parents, as other stakeholders, you need to engage your children with, because if you're going back to secondary, which is actually a totally different new experience, but you do not actually also tell them that they're going to face certain new things here and there, this is where they're going to really also find it very difficult. And at the end of the day, they would not want to persevere certain things, and really once certain things start happening to them, we will see them also wanting to escape and leave school, and that would also really not be quite good there. And that is something, as little as advice I want to give the parents. And now to the children, my advice to you is that when you're going back to school, understand that your parent who is struggling to pay you also could have used this money for other things, but how best can you pay them? The main reason actually you can pay your parents back as a child is by getting the good grades and excelling in these exams that you will be able to sit, and that is how you will be able to sort of pay your parents back. Because as a parent, the parent does not need money from you, and I must say this clearly, your parent does not need anything from you, but only the good grades, because if you excel, it's going to make them proud. And really, if you behave also well in school there, that would also really greatly improve on their levels, because they would have chosen to use this money for other things. So many parents there cannot afford to pay their children, and you, who is lucky, who has the chance, if you really report back to school today, you must really be very happy to your parents. You must really also struggle very much. You must understand your roots. You must understand that the monies that your parents are really, this goes actually to these children of this region, where I must say poverty is still biting. Understand that your parent could have actually used money for buying so many things, because we we came to understand that really so many parents could have chosen to live the kind of luxurious lives that they would want, but they cannot really live that kind of life they wish to live, because they understand that their children have to go back to school. They understand that they also really have to give their children the chance of getting education, and that is how you as a child really also needs to understand and respect that. Give back to your parents by getting the good grades. Behave well at the school. We not expect you to really be part of the hooliganism, because really most of the schools in the region over time have been noticed and recognized that is for hooliganism. So I do not expect you as a child to engage in these groups, and I do not expect to be part of hooliganism, because at the end of the day, that is going to really greatly also impact on the lives of your child. It's going to really affect your child, your parent very badly. So give back to your parents. That is the good grades. Behave well. Understand, relate well with the teachers. At the end of the day, that is going to really be part of what is going to help you, because as in school, you are studying totally for yourself. I must say this clearly. You are in school for the betterment of your future, and that is how you need, as a parent, as a child, maybe as a parent, also really or have to understand that, because you are in school for yourself and for your family, and that is something I must say as advice to both the parents and the learners. Go back to school and really be good to the environment, and this environment where you're going to go to is totally new, so you have to persevere, and also so that you also cope with what is happening there. And so I think that is how I want to advise both the learners and then the parents who are reporting their children back to school today. And moving away from that, Okelo installed as Kiru Archdeacon. That is something that we're also seeing here. Beam District is alive with jubilation following the installation of the Right Reverend Alfred Okelo as the Archdeacon of St. Peter's Church of Uganda in Kiru. The ceremony, which took place, that is in Kiru Town Council, drew hundreds of faithfuls who rejoiced in witnessing the significant event. The atmosphere was filled with joy as the community gathered to honor Reverend Okelo's installation, and the traditional Ethur bull dances, performances by children, heartfelt presentations from the Mothers Union added to the festive spirit that is of the occasion. So I think that is something that we are also seeing here. And leading the installation proceedings was Simon Akol Esu, the Bishop of North Karamoja. In his role, Bishop Esu conducted the ceremony rites and reverence, and showcasing the importance of this appointment with the church and the community of Abim. According to Right Reverend Simon Ekul Esu, the Bishop of North Karamoja, the installation is more than just a ceremony event, rather it is anticipated to serve that is a catalyst for development. So I think as religious leaders, also I want to echo out my voices very clearly, because you have more to do as a religious leader, because you have the powers. You hold a lot when it comes to also undertaking certain things here and there, because really as a religious leader, you are not only respected as a man of God, but you can also play a lot of a great part in that in development, because really your followers, the sheep, at times also very much listens to you more than the political or the technical leaders. So I think as a religious leader, if at all we work hand in hand with the rest of the stakeholders, and then definitely that would also really bring in development. And several government interventions are already in place to really also ensure people's livelihoods are improved. Right? And with the currently that is running on is the parish development model, and of which is some also facing resistance from some stakeholders, where people are not really using these monies rightly. So I think as a leader, if also we engaged and became part of the struggle, that is in terms of bringing also government's efforts to be put in right, definitely that would also really at the end of the day improve on people's livelihoods. The poverty we are talking about that we continue swinging in maybe will become history, because really if we join hands as various religious leaders or various leaders, I must say the road to becoming maybe the middle income status that we're talking about is clear, because if you are talking about poverty, we are still witnessing so many people that is lying, that is within the poverty line. So I think there's more that needs to be done. That is by the various leaders joining hands, because if we do not join hands, then definitely you, who is the incoming leader, would also really not be quite good there. And then that is how really I must also echo out views. But I must congratulate him also and the people of that area for really ensuring that that party is a success. And really now we expect them to work together. They also need to accord the maximum respect that the religious leaders deserve. So I think that is how I will be able to stop up with that discussion. And President Museveni has delegated command authority of military and defense forces to General Buddy Wilson, with the chief of defense forces now having the powers to command all elements of the Uganda Post Defense Forces. This is something that really we did see happening over the weekend, and the president took to his X account, and this is where he posted the video from. And now so many people are actually raising questions here and there, with some people saying, what is the meaning of this? What does this mean to actually the governance of Uganda? Because we do understand that the president of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, has been having all these powers surrendered to him. Now he had decided to actually give up some of the powers, that is to General Mbadi. What does this mean? That is actually the question that now we are asking ourselves here and there. And the decision of potentially the first major signal to the much awaited transition was announced by the head of state while presenting the UPDF establishment 2021 at a Defense Council meeting on Saturday. What does it mean? That really this is something that we are really asking ourselves questions here and there. Are we seeing the road to transition? Maybe because really we are seeing maybe the president feels he needs to also now give up some of the powers. And that is something that we are also seeing here. But I must say, this news maybe also came as a shocking revelation to some people. And really, we are looking forward to having more on this discussion very soon, where I expect to bring political analysts to also really also come and share with us their opinions very soon at a later date. And I'll be able to communicate of really how the things are running. And General Museveni, citing constitutional and legislative provisions, say the UPDF establishment is an instrument of delegated command, control and administration to command all elements of Uganda Post Defense Forces. And now really with powers being handed over to General Mbadi, he's now going to be responsible for commanding some of these UPDF operations, which President Yoweri Museveni has been doing, but I don't know what that means, and then maybe what it is signaling, and we are still following up on that discussion. Very soon we shall be able to really also let you know what is happening, and this means issues of logistics and ranks will be decentralized, with General Mbadi as really as the authority, and meaning he will be able to really also appoint some people and do promotions here and there. He will be able to really also have that power. And Museveni had been at his Kasuzi farm in Gombe district since last week, where he is said to have retreated to draw up his government recognition. So I think reorganization and decisions really that is something that we are also really following up on. And issues of appointments, and now we'll be able to cabinet reshuffles, among others, will also really be, that is in the hands of General Mbadi, where he will be able to sort of do promotions within the various military ranks, and that is how powers will be in his hands. So we expecting him to take over very soon, where we did see a video of him actually receiving the instrument of power. That was via a video we saw posted on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, where we did see the president actually taking to his account to make these arrangements, and that is how we are following up on, and we shall be able to keep you updated about this incident and maybe how it progresses and transpires here and there. And this actually happened on Sunday, which was yesterday, and President Museveni said that the command, control and administration of all elements of Uganda Post Defense Forces, we are now under General Wilson Mbadi, the Chief of Defense Forces of the National Army. So that is how the things are. Now we are also seeing that, and now we are all going to be following up on this. And the President lauded the first chairman of the UPDF Establishment Committee, that is Lieutenant General, the late, that is Pecos Kutesa, for his efforts, and tenor, further congratulating the UPDF on the launch of the milestone, which he dubs a more matured and modern force. Yes, the UPDF, I must say, has transitioned from where it was up to where it is now, because the UPDF started as a force of very few young men, but today we have seen it growing over thousands, and which is also really quite good and doing commendable job here and there, where we have seen it actually going and raising the flag of that is Uganda very much high. That is even beyond borders. So this is something that we are talking about, and we are seeing this. We are still going to be following up on this, and the establishment structures emphasizes effective planning and execution of necessary to uphold peace and security across the country. So that is also something that we are seeing here. And General Mbadi was promoted to the rank of general, and immediately appointed the CDF in June 2021, replacing that is General David Muhoozi, who was in turn appointed State Minister for Internal Affairs. So that is maybe a brief biography of who General Mbasu Mbadi is, for those who do not actually really know him. And I must also congratulate him, and really we say congratulations to him upon taking over that new role. And we expect him now to really also maybe address some of the loopholes and the gaps that we are within the UPDF. And if at all he fixes this, and then definitely we shall be a secured nation, and we shall be able to certainly see the Uganda peoples progressing from where it is now currently to another level, because really we not expect it to remain stagnant, but rather we expect it to move on, where we expect it also really to grow and develop further. So I think that is how we summarize the discussion to that. And now moving on, Parliament orders forensic audit of police circle. That is also another story we are seeing here. And now that is also something we cannot exclude out. And last week, legislators pinned police's Exodus circle for operating illegally with forced mandatory salary and retirement deductions that they said were mad by intimidations by the high-ranking officials. And I believe really to join any association, the laws are very clear that it is according to your will. You're not supposed to be forced into any other activity. But where we are seeing people being forced here and there for all this while, I don't know how it has been going on. But I must say it is coming timely, because to me this has taken long. Because really somebody is earning, remember if you look at these poor salaries, I must say they have been earning very, very much little. And now somebody is forcing you to really deduct and take the money into savings, of which if you are to access the monies, it is very, very difficult. And then definitely that also really becomes quite unfortunate there. And this is why I must say it is timely for these people to really also now start the investigations. And now Parliament has directed Bank of Uganda and the Registrar of Cooperatives to institute an independent forensic audit of the operations of the police circle. And that is something that we are really talking about. A section of legislators on the Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs demanded prosecution of culprits in the savings scheme that has for the 2,990 members. Really, for those who have actually been misbehaving, we now expect something to be done to you. So a report of the committee indicates that the junior police officers pinned high-ranking officers for benefiting from the circle, even when they constitute the least number of savers. So this is quite unfortunate. This is where people misuse their powers, people misuse their offices to really also benefit for themselves, and which also is very, very unfortunate there. So I think I want to also join, that is the Parliament, for that committee there, for ensuring and echoing their voices, because really if you look at these junior officers, really sometimes I sympathize with them, because they have a little money that they earn, and that is, I believe, something that has been forcing them into undertaking maybe also the issues of Kitu Kidogo. And that is why maybe I believe Kitu Kidogo has not been able to also really get done there. And that is why, if this is not addressed, if cases of people being forced into these savings accounts continue, then definitely that is also something that is going to negatively impact on this people's livelihood. So I think that is something that we also cannot exclude, and we also really have to echo our voices on. And for those officers who are high-ranking, who have the high ranks, who are really benefiting more from these monies, I must say it is quite ashamed. It is ashaming, and you need to desist from such practices, because really you are putting the lives of those who would also want to really benefit from them for themselves at danger. And that is how they continue to ruin the image of the Uganda police. And really this is where we are seeing actually them engaging in practices that make the Uganda police force look very, very awkward and very, very bad there. So I think the high-ranking officers need to really cooperate, and we now expect a forensic audit report very soon, and we shall be able to also really let you know maybe of how that has ended. And really, if that is the case, we expect these people who have been misbehaving and misusing these people's money to be brought to book, because really somebody's money who is being deducted forcefully is very, very wrong. So I think that is something that has been going on, and really we now expect a forensic audit. The committee wants an audit to reveal the legality of the disbursement of shillings 40 billion to 14,815 savers. So records also indicate that officers in the intake of 2015 at Kabaale were forced to join the circle. So I think really it is quite good. How does one qualify to become part of this circle? This is something that we are really also talking about. Have they been forced? That is something I do not know, but really with that, we are running for another short commercial break. It is already 8 a.m. and when we return back, we shall be able to pick up more topics. Remember, we shall be able to go on with you like this up to the hour of 9 a.m. And at 9 a.m., that is when the news bulletin in Lugwalati with the Feta Manuel will be able to come through. And this also is for those who understand the language. And this is for the Lugwala speaking community. You do not have to miss out on that. And remember, at midday, the Aluru community is also not excluded out. They will be able to be having the Lembangia news bulletin with the Piso Chaki, and then the Nalcast news bulletin in English. And this is for the white men. It will be able to really come through at 7 p.m. with the Kumuringa Christine. But for now, allow me running for a short commercial break. And when I return back, we still have lots more in stock for you.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
AFCON, all 52 games live only on StarTimes. StarTimes brings you Africa's biggest football tournament, AFCON 2023 live in English and Luganda commentary. Starting January 13th, don't miss Mo Salah, Sadio Mane or Nana. Lead the hunt for gold as they take center stage. Renew your StarTimes subscription today and enjoy all 52 matches in HD live on Sports Premium and Sanyuka Prime. StarTimes, the official broadcaster of AFCON 2023. This message is powered by Techno, the official sponsor of AFCON 2023.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. In case you're just joining us right now, you must welcome aboard. And really, if you kept it right from the time we began, I must say thank you so much. But really, you can also really drop your comments on the various feedback generating platforms. And with that, really, I must appreciate that is Richard Endrio catching us live from Kampala City. That is in the sides of Mbuya, and he says good morning. I also want to appreciate that is UG Vibes Brayo, a daily viewer, and I must say also good morning to you. And not forgetting Twaha Wachawaseme all the way from DRC, and he says merci, and I must say merci beaucoup for always watching West Nile Kokoliriko live show. And just like this, you can also really be part of this show and also really let us know where exactly you are catching us from each and every Mondays to Fridays from 7 a.m. up the hour of 9 a.m. And remember, today is the first week. It's a brand new week where I must say so many things happened over the weekend. And this is where we unleash them to you on the Kokoliriko live show with the Monday edition. And my name is Farish Majid. Today I'm alone, and really, I must say, this is where I'll also be able to be giving you so many information here and there. That is how you'll be able to be remaining informed of what is happening right from the region up the international level. and that is how you need not to miss the show. And really, this is still the Kokoliriko live show. We are still continuing, and the section of the clergy has rallied students and the general public to fight injustice and corruption and moral decadence in line with true attributes of the late Archbishop Janan Luwum, who was killed in 1977 at the height of political unrest in Uganda. So I think that is something that we are still also talking about. Remember, we did have the Saint Archbishop Janan Luwum Day actually on Friday, where we did see so many things happening here and there. Now, people have been called upon really to ensure that they really also emulate the character of the late Archbishop. So I think that is something that we cannot also really exclude. And according to Reverend, that is Chan Awodi, the people need to be disciplined and ensure that they uphold the morals that he promoted. So I think that is also something that people need to do, because really, if you look at the moral degeneration right now, the youths are really engaged in so many bad practices. We are seeing people engaging in drugs openly. I don't know what is happening to the world, but I must say people need to desist from certain. If you look at what is happening within the right now, say that really must worry more of us, because look at what is happening in society. Young people are engaged in drug abuse of people really getting known as the people opium. People are marijuana. People are smoking grey hair. Of elders, now elders cannot go to the saloons, and this is something we have been receiving mostly in parts of Yumbe, where we are seeing now elders who have gray hair cannot go to the saloons because the young boys who are actually waiting to use their hairs as drugs are really waiting to see that they can grab these things here. And that is how elders are now protecting themselves from going to saloons, and elders are rather preferring to die with their hair as gray, but really not ensuring that they actually save their hairs off. And that is how dangerous it is. So people need to desist from certain practices of this moral degeneration. Prostitution is still very much, immorality such as prostitution is still very much high, where we're seeing young girls actually engaged in broad day prostitution. So I think that is something that we need to talk about. Need to also uphold, if we're told, we have to really ensure that we protect ourselves and really uphold maybe the morals that the late Archbishop talks about. So I think that is something that we also really need to ensure that we uphold as people of Uganda, because if at all we are to uphold his character, then definitely certain things about him cannot be solely be excluded. So I think for one who does not know, the Archbishop Janan Luwum, the former Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, was born, that is in Muchwini village in Kitgum district, that was 1922. And he was the Anglican Archbishop of Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and that is Zaire. So I think Boga Zaire at the time of the martyrdom, that is on February 16th, 1977, in Kampala under the regime of Idi Amin Dada. So that is when he was murdered, and Uganda marks the annual holiday of that Janan Luwum. That was actually happens every 16th of that is February, and this day was actually gazetted, that is way back in 2015, as a public holiday. And this is how people have actually been following up on that. Really, that is how they have been actually also being told to follow up on certain characters of this man, the Archbishop that we are talking about. Now, students have been told, and I want to also encourage those that are going back to school, who are joining Senior 1 today, also to emulate such characters of the fallen Archbishop. And remember, if at all maybe we emulate and uphold certain of his characters, that would be a plus to us, and then that definitely would also really greatly help us in terms of also protecting ourselves from certain activities. So I think I want to call upon each and every all of you to really emulate his characters. Other than that, and then definitely the search that we are still talking about, that is having the rock character continuing on up. So I think that is something we has also been talking about, and then definitely I must also echo out my voice on the same issue. So I think that is something we are yet following up on. And then we also seeing Burundi joining SADC forces, and as US tells M23 rebels to withdraw. And that is something that we are also seeing on the papers here. And now, what does that mean to the East African bloc? Because we expect Burundi to be part of the East African Community bloc. So I think just like that, you can join any association. The SADC is actually the Southern African Development Community forces that is fighting against the M23 rebels in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, in a move that could escalate the conflict into a regional one. So I think Burundi, with that official joining, is actually is now going to be raising concern and the development was communicated following a meeting between that is Presidents Felix Tshisekedi of DRC, Evariste Ndayishimiye of Burundi, and Cyril Ramaphosa, that is of South Africa, yesterday. So I think Mr. Tshisekedi said Burundi will coordinate with South Africa on the ground operations against the M23 rebels that have been destabilizing parts of East Africa. So I think if you really look at the M23 rebels, they have been destabilizing the Democratic Republic of Congo. They have also been destabilizing that is parts of Burundi and Rwanda. So I think that is something that we are also talking about. And SADC, just like East African, is just like East African Community, and really I believe Burundi joining that, we expect now maybe these member states to really also become part. And Burundi is not a member of, and this is something that we also already talking about. Burundi is not a member of SADC, but is part of the East African Community, and its troops were deployed in East African Democratic of Congo under the East African Community Regional Forces before they were withdrawn in December last year. And that is also its neighbor of Rwanda is accused of backing the Tutsi-dominated M23 that are fighting in East Africa. President Ndayishimiye accused the Rwandan President Paul Kagame of backing, that is Red Tabara, a dozen civilians in the raid on border. So I think that is something we are also seeing here now, with Burundi joining SADC forces as US tells that is M23 to withdraw, and really joining for the SADC forces is something that I must say is quite good, and we are yet also following up on that. And really that is something we cannot exclude as as US we tells M23 rebels withdraw. That is something we are also not going to exclude out, and we will be able to tell you maybe how that goes on. And refugee influx overwhelms Changwali settlement camp is also something that we are seeing here. And now the issues of refugees continues to be one that really is something we are talking about over time. Really, if you look at what happens to the refugees over time, we have been seeing this actually also facing a number of challenges. And the refugees, actually, I must say, people who face a lot of challenges. Being in refugee is something that is not easy. I must say this, because really, if you were to really sit down with the war, be it your neighbor, try to talk to them, also understand how maybe life was in exile. Definitely, they will be able to tell you life was very difficult. And really, if you look at what these people are going through, I believe they are going through also hell, which to me maybe also not be like how it was, because now we are seeing several international interventions coming through, where we're seeing so many international agencies, international organizations coming to the rescue of the refugees, where maybe something that was not there. Now Changwali refugee settlement is overwhelmed by an influx of refugees as thousands continue to cross the dangerous waters of Lake Albert away from the war-torn Eastern Congo, caused by the insurgencies from allied democratic forces and the M23 rebels. And this is something we are still talking about. And really, if war is something that continues to destabilize our opponent, then definitely that also really puts development at stake. And then we are seeing our people, when I say our people, I mean people of East African Community, because really them being put at danger. So I think that is something that we are also really talking about. Others have come from Sudan and South Sudan, as well as, according to the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, the situation remains highly unpredictable. Mr. Frank Walusimbi, the UNHCR spokesperson, in a telephone interview on Sunday said since January they have received 15,000 new arrivals, with 3,000 from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Even this is happening within the camps of West Nile sub-region, and I do understand that every day and every month, recently we were in a meeting, we actually been told that every month at least 800 new refugees are entering the country, that is from Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan. And that is how they are actually also living in the countries. And he added that those coming from Democratic Republic of Congo arrived through Kisoro, Bubukwanga, the sub-county in the individual district, and via Lake Albert. So you really see why these people have to live their lives. But I must say, one person would not want to really also live their lives. If at all things that way back at home were good, nobody would want to really also ensure that they live their countries, but they are forced just because they have nothing to do, and that is how they also really live their lives and maybe leave their places. So I think that is quite very unfortunate, but we expect peace to be brought within these countries very soon, and that will also really ensure that these people who are crossing as refugees' lives are protected. And last week, the leader of opposition in Parliament, Mr. Joel Senyonyi, tasked the government to engage other neighboring countries to support them in hosting refugees and that is something that we also really talk about, because Uganda has actually established its brand as a refugee hosting nation. So I think that is why these were crossing, because they know in Uganda they are safe, and that is how you see these refugees are freely moving in the various parts of the country. You see them moving freely and nothing happens to them, and that is how good the Ugandan maybe environment is, and that is how hospitable Uganda is to the refugees, and something that we need to uphold. And really the new incoming commander of the defense forces who is coming in, the General Mbadi, also has this task of ensuring that what his predecessor, maybe General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, was doing is also done by him, and he actually has to ensure that this is actually done more now, because the commander-in-chief who has given him the powers was actually doing that, and where we did see very, very minimal conflicts between the refugees and the host communities, because we have seen this happening, and maybe at times this also happens because these people the various differences. And over time, we have also seen the refugees conflicting amongst themselves, and this is where issues of tribalism also very, very much comes among them. But really, we expect nothing to be done to this with this coming in, and those who are actually crossing over, we expect them to abide by the laws, and that is how they'll be able to so really enjoy the environment that we have created for them in Uganda, which is really also not good, very, very, very good, which is also very, very good for these people who are crossing as refugees. And we do understand there are people crossing as refugees from South Sudan. We have those from Sudan, and then those from the Democratic Republic of Congo. We have all of them within the camps in the West Nile. And remember where we did also see recently a case of suspected cholera outbreak, and that was among the refugees from Sudan. So I think this is something that we also really have to talk about. And once they cross over to the country, they have to ensure that their lives are very safe. And this was after the vice chairperson of Committee on Equal Opportunities, Ms. Dorcas Achen, presented a report on the floor of Parliament about the state of refugees and refugee hosting communities in Uganda. In the report, the committee noted that the influx of refugees had led to the encroachment on wetlands in the various settlements and recommended measures for natural resource conservation, among others. Mr. Walusim further expressed that the numbers could be bigger than this in the coming days. So I think the issues of refugees is something that really continues over time, where we are seeing their numbers continue to go up each and every day. We are seeing numbers of the people who are coming in as refugees continue to shoot up. So what does that mean to the resources that we have in this country? And I must say that is also piling pressure on the resources that we have in this country. And then definitely government also needs to ensure that they cater for this, because people who are crossing as refugees will be able to really access our social services. Talking about the hospitals, they will not be able to exclude, they will not be chased away. Look at the schools, definitely they will be able to be accommodated in these schools. So I think that is something that we also be talking about for these people who are crossing as refugees. Now the government needs to ensure proper plans in terms of ensuring that these people who are crossing as refugees' lives are protected. And Uganda is Africa's largest refugee host country, providing refuge to over 1.5 million people. More refugees come from South Sudan, that is constituting to about 57%. The Democratic Republic of Congo constitutes about 2%, Somalia about 3%, and Burundi with about 3%. So I think that is something that we are seeing as the people of this region, people crossing as refugees. But really, I must say, this also really greatly has an impact on the resources that we have. Really, this is where we have to share with them, because if they're crossing into our country, definitely we shall be able to really also share with the resources we have with them. By the end of September 2023, 74,618 new arrivals were recorded, and the total of that is 225,000 new arrivals have been received since 2022. While most refugees have fled violence, that is in South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, the recent conflict in Sudan has resulted in a number of 6,262 new arrivals from Sudan. And according to United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, refugees in Uganda have already received the lowest level of food assistance in the region. The overall funding shortage is also impacting the already limited livelihood opportunities and severely impacting on the food security. And really, that's something that I also did talk about, because really, if they're crossing over to this country, definitely, what do we expect on the resources that we have, the meager resources that we're having? Then that means that we will be able to be also conflicting, also competing with them for the food ratio that we have. So I think that is also something that we are talking about. Then I want to also call upon the people who are in this region, more so those that have land actually to engage in agriculture with the rains that we're expecting very soon. Maybe if they engage in agriculture, there will be ready food for those who will be able to solely need this food, because the refugees who are coming may not have access to the land that we're talking about, but you as the host, definitely you have so many opportunities. So you have a lot of role to play. You have a lot to do when it comes to also working together with these refugees. So I think that is something that I must also really echo out my voice on, and I must say, if we work together with them, definitely that would also really ensure that people's livelihoods are improved. So I think that is where we come to a closer with the issue about the refugees, where we are seeing so many people actually crossing here and there as refugees. And with that, really, we want to put that discussion to a close. In case you are just joining us right now, you must welcome aboard. This is the Kokoliriko live show. In case you are just watching us for the very first time, it happens every Mondays to Fridays from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And my name is Farish Majid, and really so many things we discuss on this show, and this is why we give you morning updates. And it is always good to start off your day from an informed point of view, and that is one thing that we are here to do for you. So I think that is something that we are not going to exclude out, and really we also have to let you know of, and that is definitely one thing that you also have to be in the know of, because if you do not know about what is happening in the region, maybe in the country level at large, then definitely you will be able to be left out, and then definitely that would also really not be good for you there. So I think that is something that we are still following up on. And now we're moving out from that. We are seeing construction of Shillings 1.3 billion water project in Amulatar kicks off, and also in Padere. So I think this is something good. If you talk about water projects, water is life, but really we have been seeing people complaining about water, and really I want to say water shortage has actually been hitting so many areas where we are seeing now people trekking long distances really to actually access water, which is really becoming very, very difficult. Remember, water is life, and I must say this because without water, there's nothing that can be done. And in the wake of uncertainty over weather patterns affecting farming activities in northern Uganda, the Ministry of Water and Environment has launched Shillings 1.3 billion Valley Dam project. And the Valley Tank Dams project aims to harness rainwater and store it for agricultural purposes during dry seasons where water is very scarce. So I think Charles Buye, the senior engineer at the Ministry of Water and Environment, said the scope of water work includes cattle watering and facility for domestic use. So local leaders say the selected areas have been faced recurrent challenges due to erratic rainfall patterns and insufficient water resources affecting crop yields and livelihoods of the people. So Susan Ebinyo, the Senior Assistant Secretary to Pukoro Sub-County in Padere District, believes the project will help increase the household income through increased production. So I think that is also something we are talking about. And in Amalatar, Thomas Arum, the district engineer, says despite having available natural water resources in the district, the availability of water ready for use by the communities remains a challenge. So I think that is also something that we cannot also exclude talking about. Remember what water really has been very, very much challenging. I think now with the construction of this Valley Dam, if at all this water is also going to be used on irrigation, definitely that would also really increase on food production. Because really we are living in an era of climate change where we are seeing the rainfall patterns really being very, very unstable there, where we are seeing the rainfall trends keeping on changing here and there. So with this construction of Valley Dams, I want to really commend them, and they expect this 3.1 billion yields the intended purpose, because really at times people come with these very beautiful projects, but when it comes to implementation, you see nothing. This is where I want to echo out my voice, and I want to make this appeal to the leaders and say, if at all this project that we are going to be witnessing is for the right purpose and it's actually going to undertake its intended purpose, then the final beneficiaries would actually see the fruits of this, and then definitely that would also really improve on people's livelihoods. Because sometimes, most of the times, I must say this, many times people come with these projects and just on paper, but the monies are released. But when it goes to the final implementation, where the construction bit is done, where we want to see the final project, this is where we are seeing challenges. But now I want to call upon for those people who are going to undertake this project to really ensure that really they abide by the laws. They actually do that mandate as they do their work as mandated by the law, and they have to keep time, because really if you have to really keep time, then definitely this would not also greatly negatively impact on the livelihoods of the people, because this valley project is going to do so many things. So I think that is something that we cannot also leave out, and really we have to continue talking about, because if that is not the case, then definitely that is also really going to also affect on people's livelihoods, because we expect this to really also greatly improve on the people's livelihoods. Definitely, if with the construction of this valley dams in these two districts is implemented, we are going to witness the food production increasing. Secondly, we are going to improve. We see maybe people's livelihoods in terms of water, access to water also improving, because water remains life. Because that is where, if this is not done, if it's not done that way, then definitely people's livelihoods, as I said earlier on, is going to be affected. Remember, also in a recent survey in Western Sub-region, we did see that 47% of the water bodies are actually infiltrated and not right for human consumption. So that is something we have also been talking about. And remember, water remains life. So I think such initiatives would also really ensure that people are protected from trekking the long distances, more so during the dry spell. So I think this is a quite good job, and now we expect the final work to be done successfully. And moving on, Dr. Michael Corral announces return to Uganda as she concludes 5-day mission in Kenya. And really, that is something also we are seeing here. That now, this is also something that we cannot exclude as we prepare to run for another short commercial break. And the American philanthropist, president, and founder of Breath of the Spirit International Ministries, Dr. Michelle Corral, has announced she will this year return to Uganda for a conference. And Dr. Michelle was last year in Uganda for the East Africa Fire and Anointing Pastors in Kampala, organized by the Planet organization, and which attracted over 1,070 pastors and graced by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And speaking during the conclusion of the 5-day mission in Kenya, the American philanthropist announced she will, in August this year, return to Uganda for another conference before proceeding to Ethiopia and Egypt. And she will also attend a conference in South Sudan. The Kenyan mission in Kenya, Dr. Michelle held 2 pastors' conventions in Kisumu and Nairobi, and the Kisumu Pastors' Convention with that happened. So I think this is also something we are talking about. We expect her to come back and also engage with these religious leaders and draw strategies. We would not expect them to just have the conference as it is, but rather we expect them during this conference to address developmental issues, and where we expect them to also talk about issues in relation to the religion. So I think that is where we are also going to be following up on that discussion, and that is how we shall let you know of what is happening in that line. So I think it is good to really also be part of the Kokoliriko Live, and that is how you will be able to really let you know of what is happening. So I think with that, really, you also need to be part of the discussion, and we are putting that discussion aside. And also, that is one thing that really I must also really echo out my voice on. And as we prepare to run for a commercial break, and I must say to the youth, really, so many bad things have been happening here and there. And I must say, one of the bodies of one of the youths from Arua City is still lying. That is in Odamachaku after being murdered. And according to information we got, this boy actually left Arua City after stealing another motorcycle, and where he took the motorcycle and was planning also really to steal another from that side and come with this side. So I think I want to call upon the youth to desist from practice of theft, which is really eating up their lives. So I think if people don't desist from this practice of theft, then definitely we continue to lose young boys who will not lose their lives in these cases. So I think that is something I must also really talk about, because really every time we continue to hear gunshots, each and every night we are listening to gunshots. In the morning, gunshots are more so in the hotspots within the Arua City, and we cannot talk about this, but nothing is changing, because these boys now feel the easiest way to their survival is through broad day robbery, where they are grabbing people's handbags, where they are grabbing women who actually go in the morning to these markets. They are their targets, where they are grabbing their handbags which contain their monies, where they're grabbing their phones. I must say this is quite unfortunate. Really, I now want to issue a warning to these boys, let them actually go and now start engaging in active production in terms of maybe engaging themselves in the various activities. For those who actually cannot afford to work, the labor is there. You can embrace some of these other jobs, and that would actually really also greatly earn for you something. Because really, if you continue to be in theft, yes, you may survive, but you're putting your life at danger, which is quite bad. So I think the laws need to be upped, and the security needs to up, and the intelligence Because if that is not the case, then definitely these boys continue to engage and terrorize the society, where we are seeing they use motorcycles. Now that is the commonest practice what we are seeing, that they use these motorcycles that are numberless, more so the same case, where they actually sit on and then they target their people whom they follow slowly, where they snatch their bags, where they snatch their phones, which is quite unfortunate, because each and every day people continue to lose their property. So I think that is why we're also seeing a lot of bullets being had in the various places which have become hotspots. And if you look at the hotspots have become areas of Varo Primary have become hotspots, Baruku have become hotspots. This is Naro City. Moving to areas of San Siro, which have also become hotspots where people cannot freely move with their phones in broad daylight. People are the suspected criminals are grabbing those handbags. Moving to San Siro, where I did talk about, even if crab, smash, these are areas that have become hotspots to this kind of criminality. So I think within the city center, if you are a visitor, this is the warning to you. Maybe you need to move very, very carefully. You need to be vigilant. You need to look each front and left, front, back, and right, where you need to also have your eyes on ground, so that if these people who want to grab your handbags come along, then definitely that would also really protect them, and that would also really protect your property. So you need to move very carefully, protect your property. And really with that, we are running for a short commercial break, and when we return back, we shall be able to really give you more tops. Remember, something happened in Lugbarakari, and really, really, I must also say that now the Agofe has been declared, and the declared Agofe has also really accepted, and really we are expecting also to talk about this in the coming hours. So I think that is something we cannot exclude out as discussions to also amend the constitution, continue on. What is really happening in the Lugbarakari is also something that I will be able to really also let you know of. And on Saturday, we did witness a function that is of installation where the incoming chief, that is the paramount chief of the Lugbarakari, Yuma Manasseh, taking over and accepting to really lead the Lugbarakari. And really with that, let's first run for a short commercial break, and when we return back, we still have lots more for you in stock. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
AFCON, all 52 games live only on StarTimes. StarTimes brings you Africa's biggest football tournament, AFCON 2023 live in English and Luganda commentary. Starting January 13, don't miss Mo Salah, Sadio Mane or Nana. Lead the hunt for gold as they take center stage. Renew your StarTimes subscription today and enjoy all 52 matches in HD live on Sports Premium and Sanyuka Prime. StarTimes, the official broadcaster of AFCON 2023. This message is powered by Techno, the official sponsor of AFCON 2023.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that short commercial break. This is still the Kokoliriko live show on West Nile TV, channel 0073 on Zuku, and also online from where you are streaming us from. It's a great pleasure having you this beautiful Monday, where we're seeing the weather is so good, really we not expect rains. That is Narua City. I do not know how it is in the other parts of the world, but you can also let me know of how it is in your world, where you are. Really, are you expecting some bit of rains? Really, in Arua City, the weather seems to be very bright. We are not expecting any signs of rains, but we are still continuing with the show. And this is still the Kokoliriko Live, and we are still having discussions here and there. And on Saturday, we did witness that is the sitting on chair of that is Yuma Manase Amuku as the paramount chief of all the Agofe of Lugbarakari, and he has actually accepted, and we did see him actually consenting and saying, yes, I've accepted. Now he awaits that is official coronation, as we are really following up on the discussion. And remember, so many people, we have been hearing of rumors that the constitution wants to be amended, and now that is actually to be suit, that is actually to also have identified the new Agofe. And remember, the select committee of the Elders Council was actually given the mandate of identifying a new paramount chief following the death of that is the former the former Agofe, and ever since then the replacement has not taken place. And this is actually because maybe the issue also faced some resistance among some parties who expressed also interest, and among this was among some chiefs who were actually ready to take over as the next Agofe. And now the information we got, one of the candidates who had actually shown in interest is the Prime Minister, but then the laws could not allow him because he is not actually what? A religious leader. So I think that is where this issue had been, and because so many people had expressed interest, that is formally where the Elders Council confirmed that they received 2 letters, one from that is the now paramount chief who has been installed, that is over the weekend, as the paramount chief, and also that is the Prime Minister, that is Right Reverend Ismail Tuku, who was actually the Prime Minister, but then the laws could not allow him because he is not a religious leader. That is according to information we got from the leaders. Now, what does it mean? Are we expecting this very soon? That is something about the coronation very soon. That is something I do not know, and I will be able to also follow up on until the last drop. And I must say the issue is still here ongoing, and the consultations for the amendment of the constitution is still going on. When will it end? That is something I do not know, but we shall be able to really keep on following up on that discussion until that is when we shall be able to also let you know of maybe what you need to know about in relation to the Lugbarakari. And remember, the Lugbarakari or the Lugbarak Cultural Institution is one that brings about four of the tribes of Lugbara together. And some of the people actually, if you look at maybe the tribes that have been merged under Lugbarakari, we have the Terego, we have the Maracha, we have the Aivu, and not forgetting the Fura, making the 4 as part of the Lugbarakari. And efforts were also really underway to bring the Madi on board, but that did not really go on because I do understand that Madi, we are not willing to also become part of Lugbarakari. And in an interaction recently, that was last year, where we did see Lugbarakari engaging some of the stakeholders, which was also attended by the Madi. One of the Madis actually came out clearly to say that the Madis are not Lugbaras. And how true is that? Because we cannot speak the same language. But that is something I do not know. But the Madis have clearly said that they are not part of the Lugbarakari. So I think that they are not Lugbaras, but rather the Lugbaras are Madis. So that is something that we are still following up on. And the history was actually given out, of which I cannot now give it out to you now. But I must say that is something that really also did happen over the weekend there, because on the Mondays like this, what we do is we give you discussions stretching way back up to the weekend, and really this is something I must say it happened. So I think that is something we cannot exclude, and that is also something that really happened over the weekend, and that is how it is. And I must say it is also something that we cannot also leave out, and that is one thing that we also have to continue and let you know of. And now to summarize the discussion with sports, we did see FIFA launching one of the balls, and that is a football that is actually named Zakayo, and which is going to be used in all competitions. And the ball, this revelation came that is at FIFA complex on Friday, and FIFA boss Moses Magogo said they decided to name the ball Zakayo, which is a legendary chimpanzee that passed on that in 2018 because they wanted it to connect with the tourism sector in the country. And that is also something that we cannot exclude out. And the ball that we are really talking about is going to be used in all the 4 competitions. starting right from the start of Uganda Premier League. We shall be able to see it being used in the FIFA Big League, not forgetting the regional league and the other leagues. So I think the ball will be able to be used, that is in the competitions, and we expect it to really also be yielding revenue for the government. So I think the ball will cost, that is between 50,000 and 100,000, and has passed 3 patches of the Uganda flag and stands for ethnicity, abundant sunshine, and brotherhood. So I think that is something we also be talking about. And Haiti Villa President Haji Ahmed Omar Mandela was the first person to buy the balls. Meanwhile, Zanzi, the new manufacturer, will produce all merchandise to FIFA brands, including national teams, and Magofils will reduce the cost that previously the government incurred in purchasing them. So I think that is something that is quite good and is quite commendable. But now I must ask you, what do you think about the Zakayo ball? Will it match the Jablani? If you look at the Jablani, that was the ball that was used in South Africa during the World Cup. It was actually named the Jablani, and now we are releasing ours, which is actually called the Zakayo, which is actually named after one of the chimpanzees. And you know how people feel offended sometimes when you call them Zakayo, because they will know you are meaning that chimpanzee. It means that you are calling them chimpanzee, and now the ball has been named Zakayo. What does this mean? Definitely, that is something that I do not know, but I also do not want to know of. And now try to finalize the discussion, because on what we do in the last 8 hours of the show is we give you updates on sports, and we also really have to summarize maybe on some of the games that did transpire over the weekend. And I must say, on Saturday we did have the game that was between Brentford and Liverpool, where Brentford was able to be smashed by Liverpool 4-1, where we also did see Arsenal beating Burnley 5-0. Aston Villa also beating Fulham there 2-1. We did see Bournemouth drawing with Newcastle, that is 2 goals. We did see Nottingham Forest beating, that is West Ham 2-0, and not forgetting Wolves edging Tottenham Hotspur 2-1 at home there. We did also see Manchester City drawing with Chelsea in 1-1 there. So we did see we did see so many games. And on Sunday we also witnessed the Premier League games going on, where we did see so many games also taking place on Sunday there. And I must say it was quite interesting. The competition actually keeps on getting higher and higher, where we did see Brighton beating Sheffield United by 5-0. Manchester United also did go on, that is to beat on Luton Town 2-1. And that is how the games of Sunday we were able to go on. And I must say now the differences in the points remains very minimal, and that is how we shall be able to let you know of. And Liverpool remains on top. That is where Arsenal comes in number 2, and with Manchester City coming in the 3rd place there, where the difference is only 2 points. So I think we shall be able to certainly see a game today that will be able to be taking place. That is Crystal Palace will be taking against, that is Everton. That is how we shall be able to really let you know of, because this is a Kokoliriko live show we need to be part of. And then definitely you also need to ensure that you do not have to miss out anything. And today's game will be able to really also let you know of, maybe when it comes to tomorrow. And remember, the games of the weekend have now led Liverpool to be on the 58th position. And that is how it is. That in terms of points, 57 points. And Arsenal comes at the 2nd place with 55 points. And Manchester City will be able to come to number 3 there with 53 points. And Aston Villa with 49. And Tottenham Hotspur with, that is 47 points. And that is how the top 5 of the Premier League stands. And remember, Owen Ezaga, Linda Suzy, and Oraku Benson Pastore will be able to really come through to also let you know of what is happening in the world of sports. And that is how they will be able to really expound on the discussion in relation to sports. That is from 2 to 3 p.m. on the Wish Show time. And that is how you will be able to really also know what is happening in the world of sports. And really, I want to call upon you not to miss out in the world of sport. And remember, sports is actually one of the activities that is generating money for this country and really also for the world. And this is where we are seeing so many people employed in this sector. And the world without sport is really nothing, because usually you say work without play makes Jack a dull boy. And that is why you need to also really take part and be part of playing, and you need to also do exercise here and there as sports activity. And definitely that will also really greatly also really improve on your health, because without sports, I must say definitely that would also really not be quite good for you there. So I think with that we are coming to a close of today's discussion. I want to thank each and all of you for watching us from wherever you did. And I must say, it's always great having you on board. And that is how we come to a closer of the Monday edition, the first edition of the Kokoliriko live show for this week. And we shall be able to return tomorrow with the same program from the same time, and also really also share or maybe of what happens in the due course of the day. So I think if there's any development today, we shall be able to really let you know tomorrow. And this is the time we now have to pave way for the Airlines News team to come through and also let you know of what is happening in the world of news. And with that, we come to a closer of today's discussion. Allow me once again to really thank you who watched us right from the time we began until this hour of the morning. From me to you, it's a good day. It's a goodbye. Have yourselves a very, very good day. Thank you so much.